I would like to show something today which for me is a relatively new discovery that I think with some experimenting and some time to fully develop as an idea has potential for uses in many different scenarios. I'm just going to play through this vocal in solo and I want you to take notice of what happens to the tone when I make a rather unorthodox adjustment.
Here I am, here I stand like a wasted machine, a shadow of a man. I crave air, I need space to unleash all the furious passion that seeps through my hands.
So you'll notice that I'm using the pan pot here to change the tone from one that is quite thin and telephony to one that is quite full and more rounded. It gets thinner as I take the pan over to the left side, fuller as I move it to the right, but you will notice that the vocal stays dead center. How is this possible, I hear you ask? The answer is some creative routing and the use of some multi-mono plugins. Multi-mono plugins allow us to unlink the processing of the left and right channels of a stereo track so that we are able to treat them independently of one another. A typical application would be to rebalance uneven stereo recordings where you maybe found the right side of a keyboard was a little bit quiet compared to the left side. And so you simply gain up the quieter side or you turn down the louder one. Exploiting this ability to treat the left and right channels differently, I came up with the idea to use the pan pot as a blend control between the two different settings. And here's how that's possible. I am simply busing the vocal to a stereo track which has the pan pots in the center, which is taking all of the stereo information and collapsing that to mono on the track output. However, the inserts are before the pan pots in the channel, and we have the ability to process in two different ways on either side of the aux track using multi-mono plugins, before they then reach the output and funnel down to a mono signal. The beauty of this technique is in the fact that whenever we are sending to the stereo aux, we are able to redirect the flow of the signal anywhere between these two processing chains using the pan pot. It's a bit like parallel treatment, but different. So how this technique is different from regular parallel treatment is that regular parallel treatment involves altering the blend post-processing, whereas in this case we are essentially altering the blend before it hits any processing. So any settings between the extreme left or right on the pan pot will alter the percentage of signal being split off and sent into each side of the stereo aux. In other words, regular parallel treatment is a blend of two paths of 100% processed signal. This technique is blending 100% of a signal and splitting it between two paths of different processing. There are many types of multi-mono plugins, so it's easy to see how you could disappear down the rabbit hole very quickly. The way I'm using this technique here is fairly basic, but the concept to keep in mind when building your effects chains is the gain structure of each side, that each plugin feeds the next on the inserts, that we have the ability to bypass one side of the processing if we want to exclude that plugin from that side of the processing chain, and that we can also choose to apply regular linked plugins that affect both effects chains equally if we want. The way I came about this technique was from a more technical perspective and then looking for a creative need, whereas it is normally that we start with a creative need which in turn demands a technical solution. Nonetheless, I thought the idea had potential, and I have found that the ability to blend between two sets of different effects paths opens up some practical applications for mixing. This vocal is sung differently from verses to pre-choruses or choruses.
Dust to dust, try a must and keep fantasy tied to reality, soar through the sky. Like a bird of prey fixed on a mission, no prior condition, we never ask why. Free to now fall, free to now fall, free to now fall, free to now fall.
The verses are sung lower and the singer is not belting these out, and there is a fair amount of low end in the voice, which is not in keeping with the lyrics of the song. He's singing, "Here I am, here I stand, like a wasted machine, a shadow of a man." So I'm not hearing that this section needs a voice that is both full and warm. It's calling out for a tone befitting the lyrics. In the pre-chorus and choruses, he is belting out, and the tone of the voice is obviously different again.
Here I am, here I stand like a wasted machine, a shadow of a man. I crave air, I need space to unleash all the furious passion that seeps through my hands. Dust to dust, try I must, and keep fantasy tied to reality, soar through the skies. Like a bird of prey fixed on the mission, no prior conditioning, never ask why. Free to now fall.
The way in which I've set this up is as a tone control for the voice, which allows us to hone that in specifically for each section, but also for specific phrases if we want to take it that far. And as we go through the song, we can start to really blend between tones to find the appropriate balance. One technical issue to consider is that around the 0 point is a build-up in volume of about 3 decibels. So depending on your effects chain, you may choose to use this as a way of increasing the volume of the part in certain sections whilst accessing both effects chains at once. This is just one such example of how you could use it. Other things you could do are have one side be clean and uncompressed and have the other side be heavily compressed and distorted. Or you could use it for more subtle parallel EQ treatments, like to manually dip out frequencies from plosives or sibilants as you move the pan across. We are only limited by our imaginations, and it certainly opens up the ability for a collective of processing changes to happen and be accessible with just a single simple move of the pan pot. Next week on my new channel called All Buttons In, I will take you through and demonstrate some other approaches with this idea that open up some more possibilities. All Buttons In will eventually become a place where you'll see the ideas and techniques that are explained here, but in a more practical context. There will be less emphasis on explanations and more emphasis towards showing how I personally apply these and other techniques, plus loads of other cool content and competitions to come in the future. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to be kept in the loop with that. Until next time, happy mixing. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas for new tutorials, or you'd like to enlist my mixing services, please contact me at yamahadrums2009@hotmail.com, and please subscribe to remain informed of future video releases.